Welcome to another episode of MIA Unplugged. Here we are in beautiful Firenze, and my dear host is live from MIA.
That's right. I'm Anthony Spitaleri reporting live from Miami. This is MIA Unplugged. And one important note is this episode is sponsored by MIA Unplugged, the best resource for you about everything Miami. Today we're going to talk about renting in South Florida. And let's go.
Let's rock. Andiamo.
Andiamo.
So when you are relocating to Miami, or if you already live in Miami and you need to rent a condo or a house, today we're going to be talking about the process that gets you from whatever you want to the house that you want to rent. So the first one is going to be which one, Anthony?
The first one, as always, is you are having a great real estate agent and you want to find a great real estate agent because, again, real estate is a team sport and you want to have the best agent on your team to find you the best possible place in Miami or wherever you're moving to. So finding a great real estate agent, numero uno.
Numero due. Numero due will be, it is a difference between renting from a landlord and renting from rental community in Miami. So, for instance, I have a management company which we deal with a lot of landlords. So the process is you need to fill out an application. You need to provide all the documents that we will require, from supporting documents for your income, your pay stub, your bank statements, IDs, and so forth. But then when you are renting from rental community, is different. Can you guide us through that process, Anthony?
For sure. When you're renting through a rental community, oftentimes you're going to submit an application only if you're seriously interested because this is a one-time thing, whereas there are some documents that you can reuse from working with a landlord. So with a rental community, you're going to submit an application most likely within 48 hours because they can offer concessions if you lease by a certain date and move in by a certain date, but they want you to apply by 48 hours, within the 48 hours. So you will do a full background check, just like working with a landlord. They want to see 3 times the income on your weekly or bi-weekly pay stub or 2 W-2s, right?
That is the same for landlord.
Exactly. And then they will want to make sure that you have a decent sized credit score. And one important fact for both parties is that you cannot have any negative remarks in your credit history.
And in your background as well, because we will find out. So it happened to me sometimes that people will say that they have no issues on their backgrounds, and then when we pull credit and background check, the system that we use allows to see whatever you did in the whole United States. So then it happens that you have a felony in New York or in Texas or wherever you are relocating from, and boom, you wasted time. You of course you spend money, because before we pull in credit, we require for you to pay an application fee. So if you have something in your credit and in your background, don't be upfront, because that way we will be able to give you some advice on how to process, and don't put yourself into a situation that you will just be spending money. The number 3 will be the timeline. It's different if you're renting from a rental community than if you're renting directly from the landlord, because landlord, let's see, if it's a condo, it will be an association. If it's a house, most likely it will be an association. So when you have to go through an association process, most likely it's going to be 30 days in most cases. So if you need to move in by next week, maybe renting for the landlord it will not be the right avenue for you, because your timeline is very short. But when you are renting from a rental community, then it's different.
Right. With a rental community, typically they will tell you 5 to 7 days. However, I've seen it as fast as 48-hour turnaround. And it also depends what you want to choose, how much time you have, right? So say if you're in a bad divorce and they ask you to, you got to separate immediately, a rental community most likely would be for you because you can separate immediately. However, if you're being relocated, they've given you notice, you have 45 days, 60 days to find a place that works for you in Miami. Then of course you can work with a landlord. You can spend more time finding the right place for you and the right community. And then you can take the time to get all the background, the documents, submit everything to the owner. And then they will take up to 30 days, like Luz mentioned, to review everything.
And also very important to notice is, like, when you're renting from the landlord directly, you need to be prepared to have 3 months deposit. One will be for the deposit, one will be the first month, and one will be the last month. That is very customary in Miami. But when you rent for a rental community, the rent of the property might be higher, but then the upfront fees must be way, way less. So tell us about that, Anthony.
Right. When you rent from a rental community, what can happen is you can maybe pay the first month and a $1,000 security deposit, right? And they're going to give you that concession, whatever concession may be, on the last month. Typically, in a rental community, you're going to get the best deal at 14 months instead of a 12-month lease. Again, in
Mhm.
Miami, we can do shorter term, 6 months and one day. Less than 6 months and one day, it's going to increase in price because the opportunity to rent something short term is much higher demand, and the
Mhm.
possibility to find such a building that exists is we could say a little more challenging. Not that they don't
Mhm.
exist; it's just the demand is so high that the prices increase based on the monthly rent. But 14 months is going to get you the best price in a rental building, and then also it's important to note rental versus landlord is the fees. With the rental community, you're going to pay water for sure, so there'll be no utilities. You're going to have rental insurance, and you're also going to have to pay for parking, as opposed
While
to
when yeah, while when we rent for a landlord, most likely, of course, all the properties will have parking space, so you don't have to pay for parking unless you need extra parking, and then that you will have to deal directly with the association to see if that is permitting on that community or in the house. Mostly, if you have a house, that will not be the problem. But when you are in a condo itself, usually condos come with one or two assigned parking spaces, and if you need more than that, some condominiums will allow you to be there and to park there. You just have to register the vehicle. But some other condominiums will require for you to pay extra, but that is very unlikely.
number four on the list is maintenance. The difference between a what's I'll go with rental building. Luz can talk about the for the landlord. So with a rental building, typically if you have a maintenance request, they will respond within 24 hours, 48 hours, because they have a system, a process, and basically you're going to submit a request online. They're going to review it, and then they're going to come take care of it. As opposed to a landlord, go ahead,
And a
Luz.
landlord, I like it. It's very important. This is very, very important. If you're renting from a landlord and the landlord is overseas, make sure to ask if that landlord has a property management company on the US, because this is what happened. I have a property management company. So as when we have a system, so the way that it works is exactly the same way that it works on the rental community. The tenant will go into our app and they will place the request for that, something, I don't know, the AC, something happened with the AC, or something happened with the plumbing, or whatever the case may be. They will put the request. That email is gonna get directly to my assistant Danielle, and then Danielle will gonna route that request to whoever the vendor is, like if it's an AC guy, if it's an electrician that we need, whatever the case may be. Now, if the landlord is overseas and don't have a property management in Miami, good luck,
Good luck.
because that means that you will have to try to contact that landlord, that you have no idea where that person is in the world, and then until that person gets back to you, there's nothing that you can do.
Right.
Sometimes people will like, if it's an emergency, they will call themselves a company, an exit technician or whatever. But then I have seen so many cases when then the landlord does not recognize those expenses, and then you get yourself into a big problem. So my recommendation for you is always ask who is going to be managing this property. If it's the landlord, and the landlord is overseas, does the landlord has a management company in the US? So that way you know that you're going to be covered, and people in the US are going to be able to help you out with anything that may happen to you.
Such a great point. And then another thing to note, just to that case, like if there is an emergency and you're going to have to shell out the money, you better hope that the landlord is going to repay you or pay back the money depending on what the situation was and how fast it was. So again, yeah,
Exactly.
having a
Exactly.
property manager, especially in Miami, where there are buildings from the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s that you can rent out, it's
Mhm.
important to work with a property manager. Or if you move into a rental building, you're going to be fine.
Yes, absolutely.
And
So there you have it, guys. This was another episode of MIA Unplugged. Remember that this show is brought to you by MIA Unplugged. And remember to like
subscribe.
and share with your friends and family anything. And by the way, guys, if you want for us to talk about something in particular, Let us know. We are here to make this process fun, exciting, and most importantly, to bring you information that is valuable to you.
That's right. We want to guide you every step of the way in Miami, no matter what it is: food, real estate, events. We got you covered. So, again, this is
Yes.
MIA Unplugged reporting from Miami and Luz in Firenze.
Firenze y
Woo!
Roma.
See you guys next time.
Andiamo.